Welcome back to Rise to Liberty podcast. Sorry for starting so late. We had a couple of technical difficulties, but we are on the right path. With us today is Jeff Bermant, an entrepreneur with a deep love of America and the founder and CEO of TUSK browser. It's a free speech browser fighting censorship and a left wing bias in search results, as you can see in Google, Bing, pretty much any search engine that everybody uses. And so, thank you so much for joining me and all my viewers. Jeff, how you doing?
Hey, Jacob, great to see you. And yeah, it was a little bit of difficulties, but I'm happy that you be on your show.
Yeah, it's a great pleasure. So, do you kind of want to give a rundown of kind of who you are, why you're interested in fighting censorship?
Yeah, no, it's perfect subject in today's world, and happy to share with you. So, my background, I was actually from back east growing up, and moved out to California in high school, where I was a tennis player, and I went to USC, and I was on the second string of the team, but still highly ranked. But when you're on the USC tennis team, they were ranked 1, 2, or 3. So I had fun and learned a lot in school at Southern Cal. And then I went into real estate because my dad was in real estate. And so he was a shopping center developer, and I ended up in the real estate business. I did that. I worked for, if some of your audience is old enough to remember, I actually worked for Tom Selleck's dad, Bob Selleck, who I loved. What a great manager he was, and a really nice man, just a super good guy. And then I opened my own business in the real estate business for 30 some odd years and built office buildings. And we also, about 10 years ago, I jumped into tech, and it's an odd combination. Real estate and tech are two different worlds completely. And I wasn't fortunate enough to figure out to build like Procore, which was the software company that's made a fortune building construction software. So about 10 or 12 years ago, I got into browsing, and I built one of the first browsers. It was the first browser. It was the first cloud browser. So it's really a great product. It hid everything in the cloud. It was never on your computer. There's no history on your computer other than if you went to our servers. Our problem was couldn't figure out how to make any money. I mean, because once you do that, nobody knows who you are. So we went to the advertisers, and they said, no, we need to know who all these people are. And so that didn't work. And then we said, well, we'll charge you, like $10 a year or something. And we got overwhelmed with the VPNs because they could spend $100 to get you, and we could only spend, $10 to get you. And so that was a losing cause. So it's a really great idea, but it's taught me a lot about privacy. So when we get into discussions about privacy, I'm pretty sensitive about the privacy issues. And I don't take email addresses for that reason at this point. Now, we might when we get into maybe a chat box or something.
Yeah.
For now, there's when we get into our search engine and browser. Then my history was we built I really like the idea of people getting paid for their data. So we built a browser that actually interceded. We would track you, but that's not unusual. Everybody's tracking you, and luckily we would pay you. The problem was, is maybe you're making $3, $4 a month on track. It just didn't seem worth it to me. And so that was unexciting. We might be able to add that into our browser and search engine. And then last year, I was watching Mark Levin, and he was talking about how I don't think he wasn't talking to me, but I was thinking about the skills that I could bring to the table, because he said, hey, if you have a skill you can bring to the table, it has to do with being a patriot. And I thought, I don't think there's a browser out there. I hadn't thought of a search engine yet. I don't think there's a browser out there that represents conservatives. And I thought, maybe I should build that. So I looked into it and spent some time. I took a whole bunch of my money, said, I'm not going to raise capital until I see this being successful. And went at it, and we took us, of course, about 6 or 8 months because we built not only the browser, but we built the search. We built desktop and mobile, and the desktop was very expensive to build. The mobile,
Yeah.
not so, but desktop is because you have to build it off of Chrome, open source, so it's pretty expensive. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the brief history. And I just felt, look, I can bring liberty to the table where if they're censoring. I hadn't thought of the search engine. We'll talk about the search engine in a few minutes. But the browser, I thought, you know what? Let's start presenting conservative views on browsers versus it's all liberal and it's all woke. And I was like, I've already heard this story about the woke, and honestly, I'm not a woke guy. I'm for a lot of positive things, but wokeness and how many shades of human beings there are, sexually speaking, I think there's two of them,
Yeah.
honestly. And if you want to be something else, I'm totally fine with that. I have no issue if you want to be something else. But all this stuff about you're a potato, I'm fluid, I don't know what the hell I know what they're talking about,
Yeah.
but it's just crazy talk.
So who is Jeff? Why do you love the country so much? Were you raised a patriot? Was that something that was, important to you when you were a child?
Yeah, so my my attribute was actually American history. I love American history, and I grew up with it, and I was really good at it. I was kind of amazed. I wasn't so good at my other classes, but for some reason, I love history, and I understood it. And you took those board achievement scores, and I think I was either 800 or very close to 800. I just knew my history back and forth. I could tell you, like, what president, and you might know this, what president died? What was it? They said was the cause of died of eating cold cherries on a warm day.
Ooh. Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know that one.
Zach Taylor.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah,
That's a
and I'm
good
not,
bit of trivia.
yeah, it's not really true. I don't think it's actually true, but if you look it up, they'll say that that's what they blamed it on, that he ate cold cherries on a warm day and caught pneumonia or something or a virus and died.
Huh.
And then there was another general, I can't remember that general's name, who carried his leg around after the Civil War. It got blown off in some fight, and he carried it around in a glass case or something.
Oh, geez. So that always was important to you was
Yeah,
American history, and so
and
it kind of brought
it,
on a feeling
yeah,
of like patriotism.
absolutely. And here's the thing: my family were Democrats, dyed-in-the-wool Democrats. My dad was he voted for Kennedy and Johnson. I grew up in a very liberal house, but and honestly, if you go look at somebody called me up the other day and said, I don't know if you're really a Republican or a conservative. I said, why are you saying that? I said, I just spent $1 million building the first modern, browser search engine. And he said, oh, because I looked at your voting record and it turns out you voted a number of times for Democrats. And I said, did you check the other record, which was one? I was a real estate developer. And in Santa Barbara, you give money to whoever you have to get your projects approved. It's not unlike Trump. And number two, the Democrat Party is totally changed.
Yeah.
It's not what it was. And I can't, I just really can't support the wokeness.
Yeah. I mean, at one point, Democrats still cared for the country. They were all about free speech,
Yeah,
anti big corporation, you know, even some were pro Second Amendment. But at this
yeah.
point, it's just, it's like neo Marxism at this point.
Yes, like the ACLU, they actually have defended a few times free speech because that's what we used to believe in and it was, you could say anything you want. You might not be liked for it. I mean, you might say something racist and you won't be liked for it, but no one went around cutting you off on, well, now the web or on your phone or anything else. You just had the right to say it. And you were disliked for saying that. It's like Louis Farrakhan. He's talking about, the Jews should be put in ovens again when they go to heaven. He wouldn't admit to saying this online. But I don't hear anybody, I don't hear the left censoring him. They should be censoring him. Maybe they've decided he's not relevant. I don't know. but he was on just
they
the other
can't eat
day.
their own.
Yeah, and he was spouting anti-Semitism like there was no tomorrow. I don't hear the left saying, "Yeah, we should censor that guy."
Yeah, like I said, they can't eat their own.
Yeah, no,
That's the
exactly
big
right.
issue. So, but
So
yeah,
from there, let me finish the story out for you. So from there, I decided, because we built the browser and it worked great. We're still working on it, but it's basically done. But I realized, oh my God, I've only done half of this job, the search engine. And I was like, yeah, okay, so what good is it to build a browser? But then when you go to the search, it's all to the left or pretty much to the left. And that doesn't work. And here's the problem. DuckDuckGo, there isn't really a browser search engine that is to center or to the right. It doesn't exist. Even DuckDuckGo, people get confused about privacy and conservatism. They're not conservative. They're just a Bing search, and they put some clouds around it, so you give some more privacy, which I think is great to the extent of what we know. I mean, they're pretty secret. So to the extent of what they're giving out, I can tell you they're not making money with Bing unless they're giving them some sort of IP addresses. So if they're making, I don't know what they're doing exactly. So I don't want to speak on behalf of them, but I can just tell you their search is not to the right.
Yeah.
You know,
and I would say the closest thing that I have found is maybe Quant. I don't know if you've ever used Quant, but that's about the most unbiased search results ever that I've been able to find in the, ever since maybe the early 2000s.
Yeah, we use Quant. I think you can use Quant on our browser. You just go in and you can change the Quant. The issue I have with Quant is I really truly believe in free speech.
Yeah.
And that goes across all the boards unless it's illegal. So Quant does not carry any kind of adult sites.
Yeah.
There's another competitor of mine out there called Free Spoke. And they're once again, Quant, I think, is carrying Bing, and maybe not quite, maybe not. I think it is though. And Free Spoke is using Bing. So once again, your search results, they can put some nice flower stuff on, like here's what the right's saying and little captions and stuff.
Yeah.
But when you go in and do the searches are all the same. And we've gone in, and I'm paying big money for this, to change search results so you can have left, right, center. Now, the center is not quite what I want it to be, but if you click on the right when you come on our search engine, it will give you all the posts and all the search on the right. And then if you click on the left, you'll get the opposite results. Well, as a free speech advocate, I advocate all free speech to be heard. I may not agree with the left, but I want to hear what they have to say. I'm not a censored type of guy, and I don't want to censor you.
So for people who might not be aware or in the know, what do you view as the problem that you're trying to fix?
Yeah. So the problem is, no matter how the left wants to tell you that they're not censoring you, what they're doing is they're shoving, I call it relevant to the right. They're shoving all the relevant to the right news stories or search basically to page 2. Actually, it's page 4, page 5, page 6. And they know 99% of the time you aren't going to go, you might have to type in Breitbart laptop, for instance. Otherwise, that story is not going to come up until page 6, 7. Well, they know that, and they're conscious of that, and yet 50% of the country is to the right, the other 50% is to the left, but you can't find those results unless you dig around. And basically, they're all the same. I mean, there's only really 3 search engines that exist in the United States. There's some few outside the country. It's Yahoo, Bing, and Google. And all of them do basically the same. Now, they'll tell you it's by links, by popularity, and stuff like that. And I just don't quite believe them. I mean, I've never talked to anybody over there, but honestly, my job was to get search results up that give you a fair and balanced. I hate to use that word because I don't want to be known as Fox, but it's fair and balanced where we give you all sides and you choose what you want to read about or research about. Not not what Bing or Yahoo or Google thinks is important.
What
Why
they
would
choose for you.
yeah, why are they choosing for you? I want you to choose for you what you want to read, not what they want you to read. That's censorship.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and that's curating opinion, and
yeah,
that's narrowing your worldview. It's curating humans, which that just seems so immoral.
yeah. It is, and it. I mean, I came from, as I said, my beginnings were free speech. I am never going to change for that. I don't want to silence the left. I don't agree with the left on many issues, but I'm not here to silence them. But they're here to silence us. And
Yeah.
so I decided to, kind of Mark Levin challenged us to do something. And I decided, I'd build browsers, and now I'm going to go build a search engine. If we raise enough money, that's what we got to do next. Is raise enough money. We got to get enough people that like what we're doing, and we'll sign on. I mean, we have a crowdfunding, but if you just sign up, it would be helpful. And even if it's not perfect, know it's a piece of work. We're working on it, and it's going to get better and better and better. And my real goal is to build my own search engine, because I always worry that the left will eventually decide, yeah, we need to take this guy down. He's getting too big.
Yeah.
And I hope I get big for the sake of our liberty, but they would, have to worry about that. So the best thing you can do is totally operate your own thing and not count on Bing. I mean, what was the name of the company that they took down? And what was the name of that? Started with a P.
It was there was an app called Parlor
Yeah,
that they
Paul.
that they took down. It was on Amazon servers.
Yeah, and I worry about Amazon too. I mean, so far I haven't had any issues with them, but I am, as we grow, I will probably migrate elsewhere just for safety. I mean, I don't understand why we have to do this. We have to be so distrustful of
Yeah.
people on the left, but honestly, I think you do. It's unfortunate.
No, I definitely agree. Definitely have to be distrustful of the left. I don't believe that we should have to. It shouldn't ought to be that way. But it is that way, and
Yeah,
they've made it that way.
they've made it that way, and you hate to say this, but they have their form of socialism. It's not the same as the Chinese form of socialism. Not worried that they would get to that point, but I do worry because it's a slippery slope. And when you start censoring people and you start calling it misinformation, and look what they did. I mean, talk about, people talk about the election was stolen. I don't know if it was stolen at the ballot box or it was stolen when they hid the Biden laptop story. That I could tell you for sure, seeing the polls, that a lot of people, had they seen that story about Biden, and look, they're still hiding it today. I mean, here we are 2 years into the administration. We still don't have any results about that. I mean,
Yeah.
to me, it's incredible. Yeah, you can put a guy on trial for something for murder, and the trial's within a year, but you do something like the Biden laptop and it's hidden for 2.5, 3 years. Well, we don't know when it's going to come out,
Yeah. When
right?
there's just, pure evidence of quid pro quo with Ukraine, which gets a
Yeah,
little messy considering the particular proxy war that's taking place currently.
yeah,
Um,
and look at China. I mean, it seems like it just doesn't feel right that he took absolutely no action, by being Biden, took no action of that balloon over the entire, basically a lot of our military sites, and he took no action with. I mean, me being president, that thing would have never even come on the United in Alaska. It would have been shot down, and I wouldn't have cared. I've been like, nope. Tell the Chinese you got something illegal over our airspace, and it's coming down.
yeah.
And I steal a bunch of stuff from us. I mean, they're the most rogue nation. But I don't believe that American socialists want to be exactly like that. But they want their own form of censorship, and they want to tell you what you can do and what you can't do, at least to a certain extent.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Just being involved in local politics where I am, um, and just kind of seeing how ugly things get behind the scenes. They might not say it out front. They do if you understand their language.
Yeah, yeah. I think they like some form of control, call it communism. I mean, the way they talk about equity and diversity, so the way I see this is they've tried for a while to get there. When they first tried with economics, but the problem with economics is it's really is true. You can be poor and be rich in a matter of no time in the United States, and so that didn't really work. But the dividing the classes into white, brown, black, that was the key. And I believe that really started with Obama, and he kind of fired this thing off, and it's grown into a monster. And
Yeah.
it's sad because Martin Luther King talked about uh, you should not consider race as something. I mean, it's
Oh, did we lose you? Uh-oh. Might have lost Jeff. Uh-oh. Hold on here. Uh-oh. Okay. Well, let's see here while I get Jeff back. Might have been cut off for a second. Let's see. So it looks like he dipped out real quick. Well, I would like to bring up his browser real quick. I have been using it for the past couple of days. Let's see here. So this is it, TUSK browser. It is very convenient. I do like it very much. Like I said, I have been using it. It is quite wonderful. So go check it out. Jeff, we got you back.
yeah. I think this is on me, by the way, guys. And I always like to admit when I'm wrong. It looks like the old Cocoon, which was the original browser. Somehow we were on that, and it just died. And so my apologies to your audience. I'll take it all on me.
No
That's
worries.
I'm good at that. Taking that. Listen, at home, I'm good at that. Taking the blame.
Well, I was just showing them your website real quick while we got you back. So, I would have to agree with you. I think maybe Obama didn't necessarily start it. I think he brought it to the forefront. I think he made it relevant. Um, to me, so I study Marxism. Um, and it seems as though it's just Marxism, but instead of the economic class, they just switched it to race.
Yeah, which
It-
works.
It's
Which works.
because it's the exact same thing, same tactics, same language almost. It's just they are focusing on something else.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. They want their own, in my opinion, they want their own flavor of communism, and they kind of dress it up as to, well, it's freedom of speech until you say the wrong thing, and it's things like that. And I do think, I agree with you. It's probably before Obama, but Obama really kind of lit the fuse on this thing, and what's sad about this, and I plan to get Tusk into schools. People ask me, what are you going to do about it? And I think, boy, we have to train our children again about liberty and freedom of speech and censorship, because what they're getting in school now, they're just getting the socialist thing, which is shout down. I saw something. What's it? They shouted down. Where is it? Stanford. Just recently, somebody came to speak, and they shouted him out of the room. It was.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, what are you kids doing? Of course, I never liked Stanford because I went to USC. Brag on them, but still, it's like, really, guys, you can't listen to someone else.
Yeah. You personally, I'm a big fan of actually listening to the people I disagree with.
Yeah, yeah. Well, if I ever get invited to Stanford, I'll make sure I show up with a bullhorn in the classroom. That way, if they're shouting at me, I can shout bigger and louder at them. I don't understand the kids today. That doesn't make any sense. I mean, you can't listen to somebody and have a disagreement. You have to shout them out of the room, or and even the teacher. She even said, "Oh, I think this is a mistake bringing you," or something. The speaker on. I'm like, no, it's freedom of speech. Our kids, when you get into the real world, well, I guess to get into the real world, you try and censor. And part of this problem is because, well, I'll admit it, partly my fault. I wasn't paying attention to what my kids were learning at school. And what they had was socialist, leftist teachers that said it's okay to silence someone else. So when these guys, the 30 to 45-year-olds who are now kind of running corporations, they decided, it's okay. We'll just censor you. We'll just shut you up. We learned in school that misinformation, that's not misinformation. Misinformation was what was kind of a form of, I mean, not only communism did it, but the Nazis did it too. The Nazis were smart. What they did was they put radios. So imagine this: before Hitler came to power, they had very few radios in Germany. Well, what he did was he came to power and then decided he was going to be the propagandist, and he put a radio in everybody's house. Now, all the thing you listened to was him, and his
smart from his perspective. That's a very intelligent move.
Yeah, no, they were very. I mean, they were, I don't know, despicable people. I hope they're living in hell, but very, very smart the way they did. Just he made
tactfully, very
his
very
biggest mistake was
intelligent.
going after Russia and the West at the same time. He just couldn't handle it. He underestimated the Soviet Union. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I think we kind of did as well. So
Yeah,
we
there's no
still
doubt.
are.
And well, look at China. I mean,
Yeah.
who are we underestimating now? We're underestimating China, and they're growing. And we have these fights about more social program. We need to beef up our military, or we're going to get our asses
See,
handed.
I'm not too worried about China. They're communist. They will fall. I see them falling within the next 10 years.
I sure hope so. I hope you're right, but
So because they do put on a really large front. They want to appear stronger than they are, and I mean they have entire ghost cities. They
yeah.
can't even fill up the cities, and they put on a really good front.
Well, I
But
hope you're right.
underneath that, and I'm not saying that they're entirely weak, obviously, or that they're not a threat at all.
Yeah.
I just don't view them as the great threat that many do.
Who do you view? Do you view the Russia?
I view the United States being about the worst threat
Yeah, to
today.
liberty. Well, it's a good point that the way these people are acting, and the way the government acts, it is something you have to worry about.
Yeah,
But
I
that's
mean
why,
they're trying to sign us into war on both sides, east and
yeah,
west.
that's why what we're doing, and we're not the only. If we're the only ones, great. If we're not, I hope there's others. But that's why we exist, is to what one part good about capitalism is you can do what I'm doing now. I put my own money to start, right, and now I have a crowdfunding, and then hopefully we'll get some big players to come in. But one of the things, let me point this out. One of the things I decided to do early on was I could probably furnish more money. At a certain point I stopped and I said, you know what? I kind of like the idea that if you have $100, you can get in the game. And because my kids always complained about how, Dad, kid, we never got in the Tesla deal. Well, I don't know if I'll be a Tesla or not, but I want to give people the opportunity to put in a little money. And I email everyone that gives me money. I send them a thank you note. Most of them are very personal because somebody says something to me about democracy or freedom. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not going to give you a cut and paste. I'm actually going to respond and thank you for your service to the country, or just giving us $100. Some guy sent me a check for $25,000.
All right.
That was just incredible. And I reached out to him and said, do you want to have a conversation before you put your 25,000? And he never responded. He put his money in. So it was crazy.
So That's actually something I wanted to ask about was how has the response from the public been?
Well, I'd like to say it should be a lot better. It's frankly, it's a little disappointing that, and I'm worried that conservatives are not putting their money where their mouths are. And I am. It's not. I'm not just asking you for $10 and you don't get anything for it. We're going to do a small donor campaign too, but it's $100 is the minimum the feds will allow you to take in as an investor. We put you into a group. You don't have a say. It's too small for you to have a say in the company. You have to trust me that I'll do the right thing for you. But you end up, maybe that $100 turns into $2,000 when we're done. And that would be great, bring me great joy to the guy. I've had a few people say, I gave you $100. I can barely afford that. And I've written back and said, maybe I should give you your money back. I don't want anybody putting money in that they can't afford to because, like anything else, these are risky deals. But I appreciate it. And I decided early on, I just wanted to open this up to the public. And I'm hoping more patriots will take a risk. It's a small risk, $100 to $500, and put it in. And we grow this. And, I think we've got I can't talk about it yet, but I think we got a super surprise coming on. Yeah, that will be really delightful to conservatives that I'm working on. And this is all about keeping us alive and spreading the word of freedom and liberty.
Yeah, I would I would like to remind people that to control language is to control thought, and even if you can think certain things, it won't be that far off until they can control your mind by being able to control your language. Um, it's
They're
not
doing
like
that now. Yeah.
Google is all of a sudden going to, see the light tomorrow and start offering fair results.
I'd be happy. Listen, I'd be happy if they put me out of business. That would be okay if they would gave you fair results and they would actually do that. And by the way, just for disclosure, Google is one of my tenants since I own a bunch. I own real estate. I have them in my office. They're very pleasant to work with. There's not an issue. I just disagree with how they censor people, and
Yeah,
but I would agree with you. They're already, what they've figured out is change the language, and then we can change your mind. And
yeah,
so right now, name, I mean, according to them, how many different types of sexes are out there? I mean, I think they said last count was 130. I thought there's two, but they said 130,
there's two.
and right. And I don't mind. Look, I don't mind if somebody wants to be transgender. What I object to is in school. That's not a place for school. And maybe, maybe when you're in 11th or 12th grade, you would have these kinds of discussions. But any kind of these sex changes or anything like that, just like any other minor, you don't know what you're doing at 15 years old. And so this is way too young for this kind of stuff going on and
Yeah,
trying to
see,
get
I'm
right.
I'm I'm a radical. I think we should abolish schooling, abolish government schools.
Well,
It's
I'm not far behind you. I think that yeah, it's crazy, and they're so far to the left. So the thing that we're going to try and do, and I doubt we'll get to the public schools anytime soon. We're going to start with the private schools, and this will probably be sometime next year. Start with the private schools, give them because what I want to do is give these kids left, right, and center and dissect that. Like, take a subject matter, and we're probably going to build some stuff like a neat little video. Then it gives you the opportunity to have a discussion in your class. And I don't think it's going to happen on the left. I don't think the public schools will do it, but at least the kids that are in parochial schools and private schools, they get a chance to argue these different sides. And at least that gives them thinking. Right now, I don't think there's any thinking going on. They're just told, and 94% of the public schools are all using Google. So you're not going to get fair results,
yeah,
you know?
yeah, yeah.
It's mind boggling.
So what exactly makes you think that the conservatives aren't necessarily putting their money where their mouth is?
Well, I just, maybe we hit the wrong sources, but we got a great. We did with Breitbart, and we had a lot of people come on and give us money. We went to Facebook, we got nothing. So maybe it's the places that we're going to raise the capital. We're trying just go right to the conservative voters and say, look, if you want this to exist, and it's not free. I'm not asking you to do it for free, although there may be the small donations that we'll do. It's the $100 or more, and I'll give you a piece of the company. It's not a ton of money, and in my case, I think it's to represent the freedom, the side of freedom that we love. And I put $1 million in of my money, Ralph, and we have more than that in the company. And I'm going to take a giant hit just to make this so it really works for the big investors when they come in. Because really, we should build our own. We should not count on Bing or
Yeah.
AWS. I mean, we should build our own stuff because it's just not safe.
Well, I definitely highly, if you haven't already, I definitely highly recommend the libertarian markets and the anarchist markets. Always great people. I myself am a libertarian. Um, it
I'll try
just you've tried.
it. No, I'm going to try it. No,
Oh
no,
yes,
great suggestion.
definitely.
Great suggestion to put that out to libertarians, and so
Yep.
we'll give that a shot. And look, I think our goal is to raise maybe 300 or 400,000, and then hopefully bring in a major donor or investor that can build a. I actually may have a connection in the Musk. Anybody's got a connection in the Musk? Let me know, because I would love to partner. No, honestly, I'd love to
Yeah.
partner with him because he believes in free speech, and he's one of the few guys that's got. I know a lot of billionaires, and not a lot, a few, and they're very progressive, and they're not going to give me the
And
money to
that's
build
that's
this.
so strange. Well, what do you believe that is? Why a billionaire would be a progressive?
Well, a lot of this has to do with what their business model is. So if their business model, let's say, they own a sports team, and let's say, it's basketball. Well, they're not going to, they have a big play in China. So God bless them as capitalists that, they believe in making money, but they are helping a society that wants to take away your freedoms. So it's kind of an odd mix. And to me, I decided early on the only thing I'm going to do is broadcast into China. I actually don't want. I'd never want to be in China and have to deal with the Chinese government. That's never going to happen.
Yeah,
Uh,
it doesn't seem like in the
not
long
worth
run
any
you're
money.
going to win.
Yeah, you could tell me, oh, it's $1 million. You're going to make $1 billion if you go into China and you let the communist country somehow in your deal. And the answer is no. Money's not that important to me that I would ever do that to America. But to a lot of people, Nike, a lot of people who are building their stuff in China, it's about the money. I don't, and maybe some of them are socialists, but they're capital socialists. And if I can use it, they want to shut you up. They want to take your rights away from you. They want to take your gun rights away from you, and they want to take your liberties away from you. But they want to make a lot. So it's not. I have to give credits to China. They figured out where we stupid. We let them into the World Trade Organization. We gave them favorite nation, thinking that what was going to happen is they were going to crumble. And hopefully you're right. Hopefully they do crumble. But at this point, I don't actually see that they will crumble at this moment. And look at all the money they're making. Look how rich they've become off of a kind of a form of socialism allowing for capitalism, but controlled by the government.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right?
they're capitalists on the world scale because they have to be, but inside their own country, they're communists.
Yeah. I have my chief marketing officer, and we have a guy coming on from Getter. I can't tell you who it is until we sign the contract. But right now, our chief marketing officer, he lived in China for 12 years, and he was I think he was did a religious thing there, and he tells me it's god awful. They just it's an awful place to live, and there's a zillion people that we would never get used to, and God forbid they ever get into our country, and they're trying. And part of this, I believe, is the back door with these people who are socialists in our country.
Yeah.
You know,
So have you ever heard of a man named Yuri Bezmenov
have
by
no,
chance?
no,
So he was a KGB defector, and in the mid to late '80s, he did a bunch of speeches about how communists could take over America without ever firing a single shot. And a lot of it was what they call ideological subversion, and it's basically breaking down the culture through demoralization,
yeah,
um, and desensitization to different things. And I highly recommend anyone. I'll make sure and include an interview of his in the episode description, and I'll send you something, Jeff,
that'd be
something
great.
to
I'd love
watch.
to do that. And it's really
It's
true.
yeah,
It's true
it's
what they've done,
interesting.
right? It's really interesting and it's true, and we have to combat it. I mean, what other at this point, what other we're not going to fall. I'm not going to fall over it. I mean, I'm not going to do that. And even at home, I sometimes I get ragged on. At, luckily, my in-laws are conservatives, so that's nice. My wife, I'm never sure. I don't think she pays enough attention to the news to understand, and occasionally she does, how radical these people have become in our own country. And it's. I mean, the president. Like, it's hard to believe he was a moderate. He doesn't act like a moderate.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he's not calling any of the shots. Let's be honest.
Well, and he's good at reading stuff. So I guess I call him
After
call
he's all hopped up on amphetamines.
or whatever it is, he is these and they've used some great ways of doing this. I mean, I never would have thought using the green technology is a
Yeah,
you go to VCs now and you if you mention anything else, they're like no, but because they're getting these handouts from the government, so they know I only have to put in
yeah,
a small amount of money, and then you'll go to the government and you get the rest.
yeah,
And then the government will tell you what you can think and what you can't think, basically, I mean, within reason. It's crazy.
yeah. So, what is the plan long term? What do you want to see out of Tusk?
I want to see a rise of this conservative browser and search engine giving you left, right, and center so that you make the decision because we believe in freedom of speech. Like to have, 50 million people, whatever, 20 million people. But my goal is to take and build our own browser, our own, well, we already built our own browser, but our own search engine, be very independent, spread the word around the world because there are a lot of other countries that are in a similar fight as we are, and even broadcast somehow. Make sure I've actually talked to the idea of with some of the um, Chinese people or Asians that love freedom, and at least present this in China. I don't care if we don't make any money. I don't care if we lose money in China. I just want the Chinese people to know that we support freedom of speech and freedom. And anybody who's an investor, you come in, you can count that I'm working hard for them, because I believe that's what I should do as CEO, and I don't believe in all the things about now what they're espousing was this SVG. I don't believe in that. I believe my job is for my investors to do best I can, best practices, making money, but being what's the word, ethical about it, right?
Yeah.
I bring a
S-
lot of ethics to the table. I'm very proud of how I ran my real estate development company. I always took care of people, whether they were tenants or friends or whatever. And I'm doing the same here. That's just my style.
No, I like that. I like that. And I would take you as an honest person. I highly recommend anyone go check this browser out. Like I said, while you had a little tech glitch there, I'd been using this for the past couple of days, and I've enjoyed it. So
It's
Um,
going to get better. It's going to get better and better as we go along. And by the way, the one thing I do want to tell your audience, and I'm not happy about this, being transparent. When we did our deal, our revenue deal with Yahoo, I had an ad blocker in there. I built it in, and they made me take it out. They were like, "No, no, no, we have to follow people around." So you will get a little following, but I promise you, when I go to build my own search engine, we'll be like DuckDuckGo. Doesn't mean we can't make money because DuckDuckGo is just yanking your chain.
yeah.
They are making money, but we'll give you the same degree of privacy. And in fact, I might even bring back Cocoon, which is that browser, and provide it for $1 a month or something ridiculously cheap. So if you want to be totally invisible, we can make you totally invisible. But we want to do the right thing for people. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, really, to be entirely invisible for anyone listening, you really just don't use the internet.
yeah, yeah, get off
Yeah.
the internet. Exactly.
So,
And by the way, I do know this for a fact that VPNs do sell your data. Not all of them. So if
yeah.
you're thinking, oh, those VPNs, I'll just hide behind a VPN. Don't be too sure. You have to check really carefully to make sure they're not selling that data. I don't know how you do that, but all I know is when we were selling data, we were talking to data sellers, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're buying data from VPNs." I was like, "What?" I thought, "How are you doing that?" I thought the VPNs dropped their logs, but I don't think that's necessarily true. So be careful on a VPN if you think you're being. The best thing to do is just get off. Don't even listen to this podcast. Just get off right now.
Yeah, exactly. So, is there any plans for integrations with other privacy tools or other sort of companies? I'm not sure if you're aware of like Ground News,
No, I don't
who
know that, but I can tell you, I'd love to integrate with Proton Mail. I like them a lot. I like their privacy, and if they don't, we make enough money. We'll build our own.
yeah,
Part of this, what is great about America, and hopefully that never changes, is just raise your own set of money and go build things that you think are give you the privacy and the security that your users want. And I am about privacy, so um, it's a mix you have to do, because if you're totally private, you don't make any money, you don't exist. You go unless
yeah,
you start asking for payment, and I like the free.
yeah.
Just remember though, free is, you're somewhat the product. I try and make it as little as possible.
So there was something you had mentioned about the ad blocker, and Yahoo had made you
Yeah,
remove that. It exactly what was their reasoning?
they didn't give me one.
Just
Yeah,
if
they
you
were just
want
like,
this, you got to do it.
yeah, it was just like that. And we've gone to Bing, and they said you're not big enough. And my goal once again is build my own ad advertising. And that will be, when we do that, there'll be a lot more conservative ads that you'll see. So one of the things that we really want to do is support. I want to do two things. One, I want to support the right, and two, I want to disclose what companies are on the left that you might not want to buy from. Because we have the purse power, and we got to use the purse power, right?
Yeah,
There's half of us in this country that are conservatives. The only way you change those companies is hurt them in their pocketbook. Then all of a sudden they're like, well, maybe we're on the wrong side of this, and they get off the woke thing.
yeah,
So I'm planning on building my own advertising. I'm planning on building my own search engine, and really being independent of Yahoo, Bing, Google. They all can go fly a kite. And I would rather use a different term, but since we're on the
yeah.
radio, I won't use that term. But we want to go kick ass on them too.
Well, honestly, I've got to respect what you have decided to try to undertake. Uh,
It's a
you
big
know,
deal.
it it is a massive undertaking, and the left always said, well, if you don't like it, go build your own, and you've decided to.
Yeah, here I am. Thanks for giving me that heads up. And by the way, this is kind of funny. This morning, I have this recurring dream, And the recurring dream is always, I don't know what I built, but I'm out in the marketplace. And I had it this morning, and it was the weirdest thing because I literally in my dream, I had not known what I built. And I woke up and I'm thinking, what did I build? And then it hit me. Well, wait, I built TUSK. So I'm
Yeah.
on the right path. I hope people will come and support us, whether they support us economically or just download us. Just downloading us and coming on and watching us progress. I promise I'll give you as good an experience as I possibly can. And then it's just going to get better and better.
Well, I definitely support alternatives. I am I am entirely sick of, you know, there being a monopoly on data, and anybody, this is streaming to YouTube right now. Uh their grip on everything, is just ridiculous. Um Luckily there's people like Rumble and Odyssey, which this is also streaming to. Um so I am very happy to see that somebody is kind of taking the reins and doing something about the browsers, about the search engine. That's incredible. But you know, I would implore anyone to go and just help this get off the ground and help it develop, because we need these alternatives, even if it's not something that you personally want. We've got to have the alternatives.
The only way this works is people jump on board and help us fight. Otherwise, not that I'll have cared, I'll have lost my money, and I don't really care about that. This is about freedom
You
and
know,
keeping freedom of speech alive. And right now, it's kind of dying. And unless we do something, and I don't see the, by the way, I don't see the government, even if the Democrats, the Republicans get in power in all three houses, the way the government works, it's doubtful that they can stop the censorship from going on. I mean,
yeah,
it's just, and in a way, it's part of our first right of well, not the amendment, first right of free speech. And so I don't really want to shut them up. All I want to do is everybody play fairly. They're not playing fairly. I could go away if they play fairly, but they're not. And so that's the reason we're around as the
no.
alternative.
Well, I think that's wonderful. So, and on that note, I think we'll wrap it up here.
Great.
But I would like to thank you so much for coming on and spreading the word of Tusk browser. I would definitely like to get you back on and get an update on how things are going. And I do want to end on this. I always like to ask this question because you always get a different response from everybody, and I love getting everyone's answers. But why does liberty matter in the first place?
You have a free mind. Your mind right now is free. And you want to keep that. You want to have the ability to think what you want to think. Say it out loud so other people can hear it. It may be right, it may be wrong. Maybe there is no right and wrong, although I think there is a right and wrong. Uh, and without it, we're just kind of robots. We're going to do whatever the man tells us to do. And one last thing I want to say, it's kind of shocking that these kids, they were my age, I can think of Stephen Stills and all these guys who talked about freedom, and yet now they've become part of the problem, where they're censoring you, and to me it's shocking and it's disturbing that they were the freedom fighters at the beginning, and now they've a lot. I'm not saying it's just Stephen Stills. It could be a lot. Maybe reviewers don't even know who he is. There are a lot of people that were liberal and they didn't keep those liberal ideas, and it's sad. So my job is to try and help correct that. We're going to do it through schools.
Yeah, perfect. Do you want to shout anything out where people can find the
Sure.
browser?
Well, it wouldn't be my job unless I told you on desktop, Tusk browser, TUSK browser.com. Mobile, go to your respective mobile store, and it's Tusk browser. and it's an easy download. You'll get a really nice news feed. You can go in and change your news feed. You can change your search engine. I would ask you to stay with us if you can, because that's going to help us. We're going to make it better and better. So tuskbrowser.com and Tusk Browser on mobile. Download us and give us a chance.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jeff.
Thanks,
And
Jacob.
yeah, anytime, like I said, I want to get you back on and get an update about
Yeah,
what's going on and everything.
that'd be cool.
Uh,
I would like that.
Thank you so much for everyone that has made it to this point in the interview. I have actually just dropped a new article on my Substack, Liberty Letter. So you can find that along with everywhere else we are on the internet by going to risetoliberty.com/links. That will pull up everywhere we are. If you found value in this interview, please hit that like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff that we always say to try and help us beat the soft uh, censorship that we always deal with. You know, the deranking, um, the shadow banning, all of these things. So help us subvert the state and get these conversations out there to people who are also going to enjoy it. And on that note, thank you once again, Jeff, and everyone else. Until next time, stay free, my